Yeah, everybody, I don't know if people overall will go from one to the other. Hopefully that would be the best way to do it. It depends where they sign up.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't walk from 9 to 50.
We are now live streaming.
Yeah, anyway, and hopefully they're somewhat clustered together. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Good evening. I'd like to call the April meeting of the Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals into order. And please rise for the pledge to the flag. Thank you. I'm going to ask our town clerk, Ms. Terranova, to read the, take the roll.
Mr. Hain, Mr. Michaeli.
Here.
Mr. Storr, Mr. Tillmans.
Here.
Mr. Roblewski.
Here.
Mr. Selleck.
Here.
Chairman Bonacelli.
Here. Thank you. Okay, we only have one case tonight. We will hear from the petitioners, and then the board will ask questions, and then the audience. I see we've got some folks in the audience who may want to make comments or questions, so we will make sure we have time for that too. And Diane, would you read the case, please?
Petition of Michael and Suzanne Furlani. The first case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals is that of the petition of Michael and Suzanne Furlani, 15 Bridle Path Lane, Lancaster, New York, 14086, for 3 variances for the purpose of building a single-family residence on premises owned by the petitioners at 170 Nectar Road, Lancaster, New York, to wit: A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, Zoning Section 14, subsection D of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a single-family residence with a side yard setback of 8.902 feet. Chapter 400, Zoning Section 14, subsection D of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires each side yard being the lesser of 10% of the lot width, or 10 feet. The petitioners therefore request a variance of 1.098 feet. B, a variance from the requirement of Chapter 400, Zoning Section 14, subsection D of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a single-family residence with a side yard setback of 8.943 feet. Chapter 400, Zoning Section 14, subsection D of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires each side yard being the lesser of 10% of the lot width, or 10 feet. The petitioners therefore request a variance of 1.057 feet. C, a variance from the requirement of Chapter 400, Zoning Section 14, subsection D of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing a single-family residence with a total side yard of 17.845 feet. Chapter 400, Zoning Section 14, subsection D of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the total side yard being the lesser of 25% of the lot width, or 25 feet. The petitioners therefore request a variance of 7.155 feet.
Thank you. And may we hear from the petitioners for 170 Nectar, please?
You can start, or I can start. This has been a long process for us. I've been going back not just tonight. It was delayed a month.
Very sorry, sir, my fault here. Would you give us your name and address?
Sure, Michael R. Furlani, 15 Bridle Path Lane, Lancaster, New York.
Okay,
And Suzanne Furlani, 15 Bridle Path Lane, Lancaster.
thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
And this is my son-in-law, Elliot. I don't know if he's going to speak, but I think he has a vested interest because if he plays his cards right, he's eventually going to live in a house with my daughter. But as I said, it's been a long journey. We applied for the variance. I'll go back to the initial discussion about our house. 5 years ago, we initially thought that we were going to move, or wanted to. We sought out a location, we found the location, put a deposit on a lot. They determined that they would have to go through the town of Clarence for the permit, and that took a while, 2 years. Then what happened is the developer passed away this past year. So it threw everything in a spin, so we looked and we saw it on Nichter, and we said, well, this lot looks pretty nice because we wanted a walkout basement. That was our primary concern for the kids. So we found it on Nichter. We had gone to our architect. He drew up plans. So at this point, I thought there would be no problem, but we found out we would have to apply through the variance process. So that's what we did. We applied for the variance because the house, when I went, I talked with Brian in building department, who was very gracious, very good with me, even though I think he got impatient with me after a while because I kept bugging him and bugging him and bugging him. But he was pretty good. So that's how we ended up here tonight. So we had the plans for the house. We are going to finalize the plans next Friday. And we had spoken with neighbors. We didn't want to go in, we want to be good neighbors, so we didn't want to go in and just come to you without letting the neighbors know. Even though I knew you probably would send something out in the mail. I've seen, these things before. So what happened is we contacted Donna and Bill, and what we and
Dave.
Oh, Dave, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dave. And Joanna and Norm. And we told them what we were going to do. And Donna has some concern, rightfully so, about drainage because it's a pitched lot, and I guess there's been problems before with drainage on properties around there. I don't know if it was taken care by the original developer of the land, but it seems that there was a concern. So I went out and I staked the land with my son-in-law as to where the house would be. And I met with Don, and she still had concerns, which I see why she did. If I lived next to a vacant lot, I sort of would hope, well, it's a vacant lot, it's nice, I got a vacant lot next to me, not a neighbor. So, but she agreed to come to the meeting tonight. I assured her that my builder is a good builder. We're going with Blum Builders. He came out to the property and assured me that drainage would not be an issue. He said that if we had to put French drains in, we would put French drains in. I said, whatever we have to do to satisfy the neighbors beyond the variance, but concerning the drainage issues, we would do on either side of the house. We're not going to nickel and dime this and try and get away and say, well, we can get away with this. Whatever they recommend, we want to go in above and beyond. Because, as I said, we want to be good neighbors. It's a major investment for us. I don't want our house to suffer, and I don't want my neighbor's house to suffer. So that's where we came. I was a little disappointed that we had to go for a variance based on the plans, but I decided to go that route because I figured at this stage, I put my cards on the table, answer your questions, and see what your concerns were.
One other thing I was going to mention is we've gotten clarification on this, but I was very confused by C because it says a foot. We need a foot on this side or a little over a foot on that side.
13 inches and 12
Right.
some inches.
But then that 7.155 was confusing to us, and I know you've explained it, but
Yeah,
I'll just throw
we
that
sort
out
of still
there.
don't
Our understanding was a
understand
foot on each side, so we didn't think, we're hoping that wasn't a big deal, but we didn't at that time realize that there was an issue with the drainage down there, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is the variance, where you're asking for a variance of the footage, does that somehow relate to the drainage, or are those two separate issues?
No, there was two separate.
Two separate issues.
Right, because the house originally, the design called for it to be just a bit wider. And he's largely working for a plan that he has in place. So we would absolutely have to modify the plan and go back to him.
Right.
We'd have to-
Yeah,
we'd have
and
to-
we probably shouldn't say that it is not a concern because Donna had a concern because of the space. She built her house with a lot of distance on the side, and she put a French drain with the rocks and everything to take it down. So they've invested significant funds for that, which we would do the same. You know, obviously, my guess would be that she would like to be, there would be 30 feet between the houses, because now you don't have to worry about it. But that's not our situation, but what we can do, that would just curtail the plans, we'd have to start chopping rooms off and things like that.
Thank you. All right, so we'll start off with Mr. Michaelie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions for now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Michael. Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a plan that you're bringing to the lot itself, isn't it? Because I know obviously the houses that are built there so far are all pretty similar.
Right.
I think yours looks close to it, what's there
That's
already,
close.
or-
Ours, it's, the frontage is a little different with brickwork and things like that.
Okay.
The front entrance door may be a little higher or something, but it follows their type of house where you have the front, and then as it slopes down, the house tends to look bigger from the side because you're sloping down.
Right.
And then we exit to their level, and we have two patios like that. We have one underneath, and then on the deck above us, that's another patio section. And ours actually doesn't stick out of the house as far, it's sort of within the house.
Yeah.
So if you looked at the back of the house, it wouldn't have a deck structure sticking out, it would have a little circular area. The deck is built right into the house itself and exits from the kitchen.
Okay. Can't think of any questions on that
Okay,
right now.
thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Mr. Leflowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, with this plan for your house, this is the only solution? There's no alternative solution? I know in the paperwork it mentioned about it would be very costly.
Right, it would be I mean, architects are not inexpensive, they charge $300 an hour. What we would have to do is, there's always a solution to everything. I'd be lying if I said, no, I couldn't do something. But we set this up where my wife, who works from home, is working her way toward retirement, but still works at home. We would like a separate office for her. We'd have to rip the office off completely, wind bedrooms around, because we have family that lives out of town. When they come, we're sort of the central point where they accumulate. So it would just make it a lot more difficult.
We'd have to eliminate one of the rooms.
Yeah, we'd have to
probably.
eliminate one of the rooms totally.
Yeah, probably the dining room. And
Well, the office, yeah, and shift it and
office
make the
into
dining
there.
room a den or
And then
something
move
like that.
the bathroom up to the front of the house, which wouldn't be as ideal, I guess, so,
Gotcha.
master bath.
All right, I have no other questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zelak. Okay,
Hey, could I say, we're gonna work with the neighbors no matter what. I mean, to make them happy,
Right.
they're gonna have input into this also, and I've explained that to Don and
Right. I'd even say, like, even if we do get the variance and we hear something different from the.
yeah, we're trying to get as much side
We
room
wouldn't
as we
do it.
possibly can with the drains and landscaping and all of that.
okay, very good. Thank you. You have a seat. All right, anyone in the audience who'd like to come up and talk with us? Okay, there being none.
Another question.
Okay, all right, Mr. Tillmans has a question. Go ahead, Mr.
Matt, the other lots on this street here in this section, they're all similar size, 100-foot frontage, or close to it?
That's correct. The lots are similar. Laurel Lake was filed as a map cover as a private community with HOA. So there's a grading plan that's involved. I believe that the builder or the developer of that site had a baseline product that he offered for the project. As a single builder, you can almost plan out the entire development. It's just that when we have one or two different unit builders is where some discrepancy in design comes into play. But I don't think it's much of a difference other than the physical dimension
Yeah.
of the property lines.
So like none of the other properties had issues with variances?
They did, and unfortunately, the grading plan that was provided and approved with the subdivision was not followed. And the purpose of the retrofitting of the French drains along the property lines was to accommodate road runoff that was passing from Pavement Road and Neekner Road, traveling down the property lines the entire length of the lots into the lake area, which caused some sand erosion, some pretty deep crevices. So the French drain concept was retrofitted to combat that. So when this project goes in, this may be one of the few that actually follows the grading plan. And I say that only because within the right-of-way at the Neekner Road entrance, the grading of the land should pitch towards the roadway until it hits the front property line. And then the grade will transect and then head towards the lake. And again, that's what prevents that road runoff from traveling down that property line and increasing in velocity as the quantity accumulates.
Okay. And I guess, I know you're not a expert on the matter, but if this property follows that grading properly, where the other ones didn't, will that cause more issues on other properties?
It shouldn't,
Okay.
because the system that was retrofitted was specifically designed for each of the lots that was installed, and basically it was a swale that was collected at an area drain to prevent the surface flow from eroding the beach, the sand that's on the beach, and that's what the system does right now. And I'm proud to say that I may be an expert because I did a lot of grading and a lot of landscaping. I know pitch very, very well.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. So, Ms. Verlani, I meant to attempt to answer your question about the last variance. There are two different issues, even though they're both about the side yards. The first and second variance has to do with you not being 10 feet from the property line. If you were 10 feet from the property line, then that would be a total of 20 feet. So you would still need the third variance because the code requires 25% or 25 feet. Sort of makes sense? I had to read it a few times myself.
What that is the total of the two side yards needs to meet 25% of the width of the lot. And
So our variance is taking that into consideration.
that's why there's three,
Okay.
correct, because you got each side yard that's
Right.
less than what's required,
Right.
and the combination of the two side yards is less than what's required.
Okay. So what does that mean for building the house? How close can I be to neighbors' property?
It's simply to maintain or give a design standard for density of land usage.
Well,
So
I
that's what-
understand that, but I'm just
But what-
wondering, when we go to the architect on next Friday, and I'm sure he knows because he's an architect, but I'm just trying to explain, like I explained to my future neighbors on either side. So when the builder looks at that, is he saying, hey, you need 13 inches on this side and a foot on this side? Or where does that 7 feet come in? I don't know if you understand.
I don't
It's the-
understand where the
It's the
7
combined
feet,
of two, so the two sides have to equal
25%.
feet.
So I'm asking for
25%.
variance from that also.
Correct,
right.
Okay, I understand.
yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of, because it's based off the 100-foot
Okay.
frontage, so it kind of,
Okay, I appreciate it.
nice round numbers, I guess.
I think, by the way, one thing, the lot,
Sorry, I gotta ask you to come up and give us your name and address.
I'm Elliot Matz, I'm Lonnie's son-in-law, and one thing with the lot, it's
Your
wider.
address, please.
39 Avian Way, Lancaster.
39?
Yep. I send you a check every 6 months.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. The lot is pie-shaped, and it's wider at the frontage, and it descends. And I don't think initially, looking at the lot, anyone realized that the houses had to be set back so far. So the further downhill the house goes, the narrower the sides are. So that alone could have been a different way. The house could have been set up higher, but they're trying to keep the aesthetic with the other homes because it does look weird if you do that. But like, say you did move the house 10 feet up, maybe that gives you the margin. So, but that's why they chose to do the variance process, So, thank you.
Okay, thanks for explaining that.
Sure.
All right, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion? Okay, I do that. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Lancaster has made the following findings: that no undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance relief sought, that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit to the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted, is weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. That within the intent and purposes of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
I'll second.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Michael Lee. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans,
Yes.
Mr. Robluski,
Yes.
Mr. Zilek,
Yes.
Ms. Monticelli.
Yes. Congratulations. Your variances have been granted, and you'll work with Matt in the building department from now on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a good It's okay. Thank you. Good night. Okay, any other business?
So during the hearing, I was able to respond to a request by our supervisor.
I'm sorry, do you mind going outside?
So again, I was able to respond to our supervisor with a question regarding environmental quality review as it relates to the level at the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I know that Diane and Lisa Braun had been copied in on the correspondence. I did respond. And just as a reminder or a review, most area variances are considered a type 2 action. Seeker is not as extensive as it could be. Perhaps in the findings with area variances that we at least acknowledge. The area variance, as it's described under 617.5, I believe it is, the request is considered a type 2 action. Environmental quality review is satisfied. Action doesn't need to go further. In other cases where commercial properties or other projects do require some sort of town board approval, and variance is requested. Typically, the town board is the acting agency and lead agency for seeker, whereas in other cases in zoning would be that lead agency and have to perform seeker. And I believe that the question was intended on certain projects that are going for site plan review. The seeker process must be completed prior to zoning board hearing the cases, hearing the requests. The town board would have to adopt negative declaration for environmental impact before you can make your decision on the relief that's requested. So again, I just wanted to get that back in front of you so that you could review it. A while back, I did send some correspondence that has training links. Although you won't get credit for it, I find them to be an excellent resource because they're in webinar form on YouTube, and you could dial in and out to the exact topic that you're looking for if you know it's there. So you know, in your spare time, not that you have a whole lot of it, but I would peruse those trainings, get through at least the 1 hour of the webinars, so you can make a note that, you know, when you're talking about zoning and use variances and things of that nature, you can refer to that and be sure of, you know, how you're administering your actions.
Can I just ask, according to, what was the New York State, or what is the that
16.5.
referencing?
Oh, the reference, it's part 617.5 is the type 2 action. I've also copied that in the reply,
Okay,
so you can reference it.
okay.
Let's see here. 617.5 describes all type 2 actions.
Okay.
Should we update the findings?
Yep, and I was just going to suggest that. I will add it too, and we can
Thank you.
give initiative.
And regardless, I mean, referrals are happening when we receive requests for relief. So again, it's just one more step in the process. And we always get better at what we do based on experience.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks. Diane, anyone else have anything?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. So moved. We are adjourned. Diane, I thought you were trying to tell me to adjourn the meeting and then let Matt speak. I forgot I could do that to quiet people down.
Should ring the bell.
I know, I thought of that.